My name is Shuichi Kawai, Emeritus Professor of Kyoto University, Japan. I'd like to introduce today that wooden house of Japanese cedar improves the indoor air quality and contribute to the human health. Air quality is important for human health. We inhale the fresh air around 20 kilograms per day, which occupies 90% of total intaken substance. We spend 90% of time in indoor house, thus indoor air quality is very important for human health. IAQ is affected by temperature, humidity, air pollutant, microorganisms, and so on. And wooden house is good at humidity control and anti-air pollutants and microorganisms, as I'll talk later. This figure shows the comfort zone of microorganisms such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, mites, and respiratory infections, allergy, and ozone production on the relative humidity conditions. The decrease in orange bars indicates the decrease in their effects. Therefore, optimum humidity range for human health is around 40 to 60% in relative humidity. Ashley reports in 1985 shows this range of 30 to 60% in US due to rather dry area. And Japan takes this range of 40 to 70% in relative humidity, being located rather moist monsoon area. Cedar is a Japanese inherent species, a typical interior material due to straight grain, lightweight, easy for processing, superior thermal humidity control. And here, I'd like to emphasize the function of air purification ability of Japanese cedar. The Japanese cedar removes the air pollutants. This figure shows the removal rate of ozone in the left-hand side, nitrogen dioxide in the middle, and formaldehyde in the right, being based on Japan industrial standard. As you see, ozone was removed around 75%, nitrogen dioxide 50%, and formaldehyde 20%. Test pieces were timber from southern Kyushu Island and hardwood in cross-section. The picture and illustration show the test method based on this standard. The polluted air is introduced to the sample tube from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, and the subtraction of polluted gas concentration between the inlet and outlet is detected. You can see the constant gas flow over the test piece surfaces. The mechanism on the removal process of cedar wood was investigated. For example, we found nitrogen dioxide was removed in related to the tissue structure, namely cross-section was much effective. Hardwood was more effective than sapwood. So effects of wood extractives, moisture content were examined. This figure shows the effect of cedar extractives of the nitrogen dioxide removal during the timber drying processes. As you see the red columns in the figure, samples taken from the natural drying and kiln drying at low, medium, and high temperature showed that higher drying temperature reduced the wood extractives and nitrogen dioxide removal performance. When you see the blue columns in the figure, nitrogen dioxide removal performance of samples first drying, then extraction treated was very low compared with those without the extraction and showed almost constant values of 15%, regardless of the drying processes. And after the extraction, the effect of drying temperature disappeared. This figure summarizes the effects of extractives, moisture content, and their interaction on the nitrogen dioxide removal performance. Wood extractives contribute around 20%, and the moisture content 47%, which shows the reaction of moisture and nitrogen dioxide produces nitric acid. And the contribution of the interaction between extractives and moisture is quite large, which occupies around 50 to 60%. As to commercial application, we developed a simple machining process of slit on the Japanese cedar, namely flat sawn timber grooved across the grain in order to expose the cross-section in both sides of grooves. The processing is very simple but effective. Now, I'd like to talk on wooden house with slit cedar timber is good at humidity control and human health for both mind and body. We evaluated the air quality of cedar flat sawn timber grooved across the grain being set in a full-scale storeroom of a warehouse. Temperature and relative humidity changes were detected in a whole year 2011. The storeroom consisted of galvanized steel plates in wall and ceiling, and the plywood floor, which was sealed with plastic sheet for this experiment. The slit cedar timber were applied to the wall, ceiling, or both wall and ceiling. These figures show the annual change of temperature and humidity in Shiga Prefecture, Japan in the year 2011 on outdoor, warehouse, and storeroom as a control with ceiling, wall, and both the ceiling and wall applied to the slit cedar timber. On the top figure, annual change of temperature exhibited the seasonal change in long range and daily change in short range. The daily change decreased with the increasing of area of the wooden material in the room. On the bottom figure, annual change of the humidity exhibited only the daily change, and this humidity change was mitigated in the similar manner to that of temperature as well. For examples, when we see the change in relative humidity in rainy season, namely around June, the outdoor humidity was over 90% often, while the change in the relative humidity was much mitigated in warehouse, storeroom in order. Especially the storeroom with slit cedar timber in both ceilings and walls showed relative humidity change of 60 to 75% and was much less than that of without cedar timber. The figures show the annual frequency distribution of relative humidity in this experiment. The top figure shows the control storeroom. The middle figure, the storeroom with slit cedar timber in ceiling. The bottom figure, both ceilings and walls. The red lines show the optimum for human health in the range 40 to 70%. As shown in the figures, the middle values of relative humidity were similar with each other, around 60%, but the daily relative humidity changed less with the increase of Slit cedar timber in the storeroom. And relative humidity in the storeroom with cedar timber in both ceiling and walls varied basically in the optimum range of the human health through the year. We measured psychophysiological responses in the room with Japanese cedar timber. We prepared a pair of rooms maintained the same temperature and humidity, one for the room with Slit Japanese cedar timber, the other for a control without cedar timber. A kind of blind test was done. Two experimental rooms looked the very same for the test subjects, and they were not informed the difference of the two rooms. Test subjects of 16 university students were sat in each room doing a simple arithmetic work. Before and after the two sets of arithmetic work, we took sampling of saliva and subjective assessment. Before the psychophysiological experiment, we confirmed volatile organic compounds emitted in the room from Japanese cedar. Activated carbon was used as an absorbing media, and VOCs emitted from Japanese cedar were analyzed by using GC mass. The VOCs in the room with Slit cedar timber were identified as sesquiterpenes such as delta-cadinen, alpha-murolen, and beta-califolen. These chemical compounds were typical extractives of Japanese cedar. The figure shows the results of subjective assessment on the room with or without Japanese cedar. The experiment was done by using SD method, that is, semantic differential scale method. Significant difference was found on the items of good or bad smells in the room with or without cedar timber. This suggests that the test subjects felt the good smell in cedar VOCs. As to other items, for examples, the room with cedar timber tended to be assessed as more natural, coziness, and calm than the control room. Figures show the results of salivary stress markers at the pre- and post-work measurements. The results of alpha amylase in the left-hand side and that of chromogramin A in the right-hand side. These results suggest that the inhalation of VOCs from Japanese cedar suppresses the increase in salivary alpha amylase activity and chromogramin A secretion. Thus, the VOC affects the autonomic nervous system and induces physiological relaxation. Well, the Slit cedar timber is now widely applied as an interior material to the many areas such as walls, ceilings, fittings, and even furniture. As a summary, being a superior air purification performance of Japanese cedar, Slit cedar timber was developed, that is, the flat sawn timber grooved across the grain. Finally, I'd like to conclude that wooden house of Japanese cedar timber improves the indoor air quality and contributes to the human health. Thank you very much for your kind attention.